All right, picking up where we left off, Marvel Girl enters, and Professor X is the one who is going to explain about the gigantic locust. After Jean Grey is filled in hurriedly, Jean says it all sounds utterly incredible, and yet Dr. Hopper seems to have predicted years ago that this would happen. What? Asks the professor. Tell me more, Jean. Who is this Dr. Hopper? Well, he used to be a professor at Metro College. Dr. Hopper holds some rather far-fetched theories about insect mutation. He believes ionic bombardment could one day increase their size and lead to the destruction of mankind. He preached his theories so vehemently in class that the college had to dismiss him, and now he works for Ryan Chemicals. Thinks Professor X. It just may be that this Dr. Hopper is far more far-sighted than the world imagines. I think I'd better pay him a visit at once. And so a short time later, Professor X comes to Ryan Chemicals and meets Mr. Hamilton, who's the plant supervisor. He says, I'm sorry Dr. Harper isn't here. Dr. Hopper isn't here, but he left yesterday on a short leave of absence. I'm sure he would have been honored to meet an authority on mutants such as yourself, Professor Xavier. The pleasure would have been mine, Mr. Hamilton, but do you suppose I could see his laboratory? This is Dr. Hopper's castle, almost his home. Sometimes he doesn't leave it for days on end. He is extremely reluctant to let others enter it at those times, and in view of the truly fantastic pesticides he has developed, we try to respect his wishes. I see, answers the professor, and you have no idea where I could contact him now? I'm afraid not. His contract provides for such leaves of absences, during which he usually takes along his mobile lab. In fact, for all we know, he may be investigating those reports of mammoth locusts near him. That's a comforting thought, says Professor X, but then he thinks, or is it? I wonder. My mental probing of some of Dr. Hopper's equipment is beginning to reveal some very interesting discoveries. And here there are several canisters missing. Canisters which the labels say contained locust eggs. Could it be that Dr. Hopper has a far more integral, far more personal part in the menace of those rampaging insects than anyone has suspected? And that map, it may just be the clincher. That large X pinpoints the area where the locust swarm appeared, and there are other X's indicated as well. I believe I've seen enough, Mr. Hamilton, if you'll just show me the way out. Certainly, Professor. Still, I'm sorry you couldn't meet Dr. Hopper. He's a brilliant man, despite his, somewhat unbelievable theories about insect mutation. I hope the matter you wanted to talk with him about wasn't too urgent. No, not really. In fact, I think I've learned all I need to know. And then the professor thinks, I can't wait to return to the school. I must contact the X-Men now. And so he sends out a thought blast. Attention, X-Men, prepare the helicopter for a mission as soon as we return. It's the professor, says Bobby, and Cyclops responds mentally, we'll be ready and waiting, sir. And Marvel Girl thinks, I've only been away a few days, but it'll be great to get into costume again. And the Beast says, let's make all deliberate haste, Bobby boy. Soon, when Professor Xavier and Warren return from their productive excursion, the professor says, in addition, I mentally examined some of Dr. Hopper's latest formula and found they contain ionic particles which would tend to stimulate growth. So although we can't be positive, I suspect that Dr. Hopper may be responsible for the insect plague. And you say his map makes you believe that the Corn Belt may be the next section attacked? Yes, I only hope we're in time to prevent any damage this time. There's the upper Ohio River. We must be approaching the area you mentioned, Professor. Then, after landing is made, Cyclops says, listen, the creatures must be right over that ridge. Crunch, crunch. They're already hearing the loud crunching that these gigantic locusts are making. Professor adds, but remember, if their human leader appears, it is he who must be battled first. And this time he might be expecting us. Keep your guard up, Mr. McCoy. A most superfluous exhortation, Mr. Blake. There they are! But there are dozens of them this time. What can we do against them? The same thing as last time, Angel, but this time we've got to do more of it. Crunch, 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 crunch. Uh-oh, take a look on your right, Psych. That has got to be the guy we're looking for. And indeed, there he is. Correction, my super-powered simpletons. Rather, it is I who have been patiently waiting for you. For in defeating you, I shall demonstrate the folly of opposing the Locust. Okay, so big guy, fancy outfit. Look, mister, we don't know exactly what you're trying to accomplish with these grasshopper pals of yours, but we're here to put an end to it. Presumptuous fool, do you think I would have appeared before you if I were not prepared to dispose of you? The only disposing you're going to do, Locust, is to get rid of that nutty costume. Whack. Away, Claude. You shall be the first to feel the bite of the Locust. Oof. Cyclops thinks he caught me off guard. All right, group. Our bug-eyed buddy has opened the hostilities, says the beast. Now it's time for the noble beast to get into the act. Says Locust. You seem more agile than your cowled companions. However, agility is of no avail if you can't grasp your antagonist. Look, the Locust can fly, just like his namesake. Beast realizes that. He says, what? He spread his wings and took off. It's up to you now, Angel. It's no contest, Beast. His mechanical wings are no match for my real ones. The Locusts think he's right. It will take him mere seconds to overtake me, but the victory can still be mine. Suddenly, he says, my creative genius also developed this ionic stun device to keep any rebellious insects in line. However, it seems to work on angels as well. Frap. Angel says, I'm receiving a terrific jolt from that gizmo. I can't stay aloft. But as the stricken X-Man topples helplessly from the sky, another mutant comes to his aid, and Marvel Girl rescues him with her mental telekinesis. Thanks, Marvel Girl. My pleasure, Angel. I'm only sorry I didn't get a shot at the Locust. Stick around, fair lady. Your opportunity may come soon. Sooner than you think, beastie. He's fluttering to Earth, not 50 yards away. So there he is landing. Gene, could you tell if that masked creep is the Dr. Hopper you saw? I can't be positive, but from the beard and voice, I'm pretty sure it is. Well, he did have a very nifty goatee. Very distinctive. Like Papa's. Don't you think Papa's goatee is very distinctive? You two, come along as fast as you can. Beast, Iceman, the three of us must attack him before he escapes. Angel says, I wouldn't want to be in Locust's shoes. Psyche is fighting mad. One optic blast ought to put you out of commission. No good. He's wearing some sort of super strong armor. Zat! But the armor repels it. Of course, you overrated clowns. Iceman is at work, though. He says, attaboy. Saying Loki. meaning the Locust. Just keep talking. I am shielded from your puny ray by my exoshell, an improved version of the insect's exterior skeleton, so that, whoosh, and he slips and falls. Tell us more, pal, as soon as you make yourself comfortable on my sheet of ice, that is. Blast it, I can't get my footing. I must summon help. And so he uses his antennae, maybe like Ant-Man does. And Iceman asks, what's he up to now? His antennae, they're starting to glow. Then they receive a thought message from Professor X. X-Men, condition red, creature approaching behind you. Wow! The next second, as the startled teenagers turn around, barely in time, look out, it's some sort of gigantic beetle. Marvel Girl and I caught up with the rest of you just in time to join a retreat. Tell you what, Warren boy, if you want to tackle him by your lonesome, I won't stand in your way. Alas for the benign beast to be so beset, I who even doff my mask to ladybugs. We're only falling back to regroup, Angel, not retreat. We can't just run from the Locust playmates forever. There's too much at stake. Meanwhile, the hooded Dr. Hopper makes good use of his brief respite. It's fortunate that I had enlarged the carnivorous beetle in advance for just such an emergency. Now for my second little surprise for the vaunted X-Men. I had planned to hatch these eggs in cattle breeding country, but I can always activate others. So he's got a flashlight that beams, I would assume, some kind of ionic power. These monstrous wasps should keep my foes busy for a while. And so he can enlarge any kind of insect. Thanks to my micromagnetic antennae, not only am I safe from them, but I can also direct their movements. As nearby, good going, beast. When the beetle reached for the angel, we nailed him with his king-size icicle. Yeah, says the angel, but why do I always end up being the decoy? And so not only does Iceman poke him with an icicle, but zap! Cyclops uses his eye beams. Marvel Girl says, you two and Cyclops had better finish off that one fast, because here comes some of his cousins. Sure enough, here come the wasps. We can't fight all those at once, but don't despair, people. The Iceman cometh, as Eugene O'Neill used to say. Less name-dropping and more action, lad, says the beast. That's for sure. Those babies look hungry. You did it, Bobby. Inside this transparent shell you've created, they can't get at us, but we're safe. Yeah, but for how long? It's pretty warm out there, and I can't keep this igloo from melting forever. Zzz. Besides, we can't win the struggle by running away. We've got to capture the Locust. From the look of things, it won't be long before he's ready to launch a full-scale attack on mankind. Crunch, crunch, zzz. Well, feast your baby blues on that. Looks like things are finally starting to go our way again. The wasps, attracted by the noise of the feeding locusts, are flying off to devour them. All I can say is they deserve each other. Watch out for flying ice, all. I'm blasting our way out of this frigid fishbowl now. Wow, says Iceman. I'm glad you're on our side, Psych. Moments later, as the icy covering falls before Scott Summers' potent eye beams, Angel says, okay, so we're out. That still leaves the Locust insect buddies for us to waltz around with. Don't be too sure. Looks like the National Guard has taken charge of things here, too. If they keep that up, we'll be out of work. Professor Xavier seems to feel differently, Beast. He's revving up the copter. Then he must have a lead on the Locust. Let's move out. And as the dauntless X-Men take to the skies once again, an awesome but heartening scene transpires below as the National Guard move in. These M1s are doing the trick. Just keep firing. So they're firing in the air at the Locust. And this fellow says they can't take this flamethrower either. But what would we have done if there'd been thousands of them instead of dozens? Froom goes the flamethrower. While passing swiftly over the scene, a few hundred feet above, Professor X and his superpowered students are plagued by similar thoughts. Deprived of the Locust's human brain, those giant insects fell prey to modern weapons. But if he hadn't been forced to flee, the story might have been otherwise. What's our next step, Professor? If my memory serves me correctly, I seem to recall that the next X on the map was only about 50 miles from here. We're heading for that spot, but we must allow him to arrive there first. And this time there'll be no quarter. It's the Locust or us. So, as Professor X and the X-Men fly off in their helicopter to seek out the Locust at his next spot, we're going to take a break, but we'll be back soon to finish our story. See you then.